I'll get everything ready, because I can mark out where the holes need to be for my threaded inserts. And then I can get the rest of this cavity chopped out. I'm going to order those now. Sometimes it feels like this build is never going to end. I've said in probably the last 2, maybe even 3 videos that there's only one job left before final sanding. And I keep remembering other things or making new jobs for myself. This time's no different. I've had a play around with the electronics and I've kind of test fitted them to see what they're going to go in like. I didn't want to have a control cavity in the back of this guitar, but it's a bit tight. I can get the switch and the potentiometer in the holes, but if I ever want to work on the guitar or do any sort of maintenance with the electronics, it's an absolute nightmare to get them back out again. And every guitar I build is first and foremost about playability. And if you want a guitar to be playable, you need to be able to maintain it easily. So I've made the decision I'm going to have to put a control cavity in from the back of this, just so that you can actually get to the electronics in case anything ever goes wrong or if anything ever wants upgrading. I do, however, have a couple of bits of the spalted beech left over which I could make a cover from. Unfortunately, they're not very big, so I'm quite limited as to how big the cavity can be. It's a good job it doesn't need to be too big, really, isn't it? So to line it up with the holes at the front, I'm going to cheat. I think I'm just going to drill a small hole straight down through each of these holes that I've already got, so they'll come out of the back, and that'll give me my reference points where I can mark up where I'm going to cut the cavity. So I suppose I should just get on with that. Vacuum. Always forget something. Oh well, anyway, I can now take the template off and make a cover to sit in there. I think that's going to involve a bandsaw and a sander. And the template can go back in the cupboard of doom. You might have noticed as well, I've had a bit of a tidy up. I thought, since we're going into that kind of new year, new me phase, I can have a really good spruce up and a tidy, and then ignore the new year, new me people and go straight back to making a mess again. Far better to revert to tidy. I'm going to get rid of all this mess, and then I'm going to go to the bandsaw and I'm going to start making a cover to fit in here. Yeah, that's what I'll do. There we are. And as for the grain match, we have a slightly lighter patch down here, which if I really wanted to, I could actually stain this and kind of blend it into this darker streak. But I don't think I need to do that. As it is, not too bad. And anyone who was wondering how I was going to get that back out, prodding it from the other side. That's part of why I made sure I drilled those holes. There was thought involved here. For once. So, to follow the theme through from the rest of the guitar, I will be beveling the edge of both the body in here and the cavity cover itself ever so slightly. But I'm happy with that as is. What I really need to do is mark the centres and mark a couple of holes where I can attach the screws, and then drill the holes, countersink them for obviously the screws to go in, and then mark out where I can cut away on the inside to reach the actual interior of the guitar without going through all the other holes. I'm just adding another hole really. So I've got some threaded inserts and some tiny little bolts. Where are they? Machine screws. They've got a nut on them. I'm going to call them bolts, even though they probably are machine screws. What's the difference? Is it the countersunk head? I don't know. They're threaded and they go in there and they screw into those and hold that in place, and all good things happen. I've already drilled these holes. I've marked the holes that I need to drill for these. So what I need to do now is take the cover plate out of the cavity, which I haven't opened up completely yet, still, and to drill a hole. Well, I just looked up and realised that the camera wasn't recording anymore. There's a 30-minute limit per clip on my camera, which isn't great. And if you're wondering at any point why I'm doing a long job and then all of a sudden I'm finished, That's why. I have a tendency to get carried away and forget to stop and press re-record. But I have cut the cavity out and I've tidied up the edges. I used my Iwasaki files, which are fairly new and absolutely brilliant. I can't recommend them enough for shaping wood. I used it for the neck and I've used it for the bevel contouring here, and I've used it for contouring the blocks inside here. I use one every day at work in my day job. Actually, I used 3. I've got one of these, kind of small round ones, which is absolutely fantastic for kind of smoothing off at the end of carving. I've got a slightly bigger one than this, and I've got a giant, like foot-long one, which is absolutely brilliant for carving necks. I don't have a flat one at work. I've only just got this one. I like it. I'm going to use this a lot more. But that's worked. That's given me a nice cavity. It's not a big cavity by any means. It's only there so I can get to the controls inside. They're quite close to either end of here, which means that the wiring will be tucked almost underneath the wood itself, but it will be accessible and it will mean that you can actually do some work on the guitar if it's ever necessary. So that's now done, which means I am now ready to start sanding, finally. But that's possibly the most boring thing in the world to watch. So I'm going to turn off the camera and then I'm going to do all the sanding, and I'll come back when it's ready for finish. Unless, of course, I think of another job that I haven't done yet, in which case I'll come back and do that and you'll all sigh and groan and hope to God that it doesn't take long. Don't worry, I am in the same boat. I want to get some finish on this. I want to get it put together. I want to try out a multi-scale guitar because I haven't done before. That's the whole reason for me building this. We will be there soon, I promise. I promise.